let you know when it's time. But good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kamal Erkan. Earlier we had a little technical difficulty. Hopefully everyone is able to hear me now. So as you guys already know, we don't have a huge team here, so it's just Ethan and I in the room. So when we find out there was an issue with the sound, we had to restart the session. Hopefully everyone is able to hear us okay. So I'll just wait for confirmation, so then after that we can start. Alright, the first one who confirms is gonna get $100 gift certificate. Let's see if it's gonna be either Shema or Jake, so, or my sister. Nope, they're not watching.
Yeah, I'm getting someone chatting it.
Oh, there's Melissa. So, all right, Melissa is able to hear. So those lost about $100. So, so we are going to start with some updates. So it's just me today. So you have to kind of deal with me. So today's format is going to be slightly different, but it's something that we have done in the past. So there are three main topics that I would like to discuss, but before we do that, we want to give the update from our non-profit activities. And last Friday night, we participated at Food Bank of Delaware's dinner fundraising, and it was an amazing night. So many people, they were there, and some of our leadership from United Medical participated. So I think everything was everyone was participating from different parts. Former Senator Tom Carper was there, some state officials, but it was all good all together. So it was a very successful event. We also have another organization we participate, partners with. SPCA. Brandywine, we do on a monthly basis, we do pack walk. So our team members from United Medical, they actually form their own team, and then they go for a couple hours to Brandywine SPCA to help them. So that's those are the two past events for this week. We have two big events coming up. One of them is Brandywine SPCA annual gala. That's going to be on September 6th, and the other one in October, our YWCA annual breakfast. That's another big event for United Medical, and we participate at these events with the entire leadership. So other than that, so we are going to go into our first topic. These topics are not related to each other directly, so I wouldn't, look for the connections on these, because there are different things happening. So one is one of the social media posts that I shared earlier with public, actually. So we are a healthcare provider. So when we know that there are several issues, so I want this is our platform, and I want this to be kind of well understood by everyone, what we are going through. Now, I'll try to stay away from mentioning any insurance company names, but this can apply to all of them. So it's not like one or two insurances. So one big issue that I want public to know is that there's a huge physician shortage, not only in Delaware, but this is for the entire nation. So we don't have enough physicians. Now, everyone in these practices are already overworked. So when you look at what we have to do, especially in the outpatient practices, regardless of their specialty, it can be PCP or it can be any specialist, they have to go through so many patients, they have to provide services for so many patients, Yet, one of the big problems that we have in the insurance system in the United States is the payment, how we are getting the payment. Now, my business, United Medical, is based on insurance is not paying their services in a timely manner, so then they hire United Medical to help them with their follow-ups. This is one of the service lines that we have. But there's one big part of this issue is when outside of while we are trying to get paid from these insurance companies, the other thing is we sometimes get these audits and they come back 2 years later. Insurance companies, 2 years later, they come back and they say, hey, we paid you this, but guess what? You didn't have XYZ on file. Well, we are like, okay, so we have them, but you didn't have the proper information in a timely manner, perhaps. But this happens 2 years later. Imagine if you buy a gallon of milk from ShopRite, and 2 years later, you go there and then you try to get your money back. This is kind of like the same logic. So this is one part of the issue that we have, and I believe there will be some updates coming from the state Senate, if I'm not mistaken, which will limit the takebacks to 1 year. Now, the hypocrisy is when we send claims, we have to send them in a certain time period, which is much shorter than 2 years. For example, for Aetna, it's 4 months, and for Blue Cross, it's 6 months. For some of the other commercial insurance, it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So basically, we provide a service, and after that, we have, let's say, something happened, and then 1 or 2 bills didn't go on time, and we have 3 months for some insurances to submit this claim to get paid. Now, services provided, we have 3 months, but then they have 2+ years to take the money back whenever they want. So this is one big issue. And now, when I say take back, what happens is this is not like they are requesting and they are asking us to write a check. While they are doing that in writing, they are not waiting or they are not following the process. So then they start doing a take back, offset, I meant. So what does offset mean in our setting? Offset means now they are not gonna, they decide how much they are gonna take. Let's say if they are gonna take $2,000, but they are not gonna be coming back from the practice, so they have to take the money back from practice's new claims from other patients or other employers. So they paid, and now they are deciding that 2 years later they want the money back, but they're not waiting for practice to write a check or confirm whether or not this is accurate. So then they start taking the money by offsetting the future claims. So this, for those who are not in medical field, this may sound really crazy, but this is what's happening. Now, main point that I want to actually address today is insurance audits. So insurance companies, they hire third-party vendors to do an audit on what they pay, and whether or not these are medically necessary, whether or not these are the medical records are complete. But this again happens for so many years later, or so many months later. Now, one recent example, and the issue of how punitive, for those who may not be familiar with what punitive is, they are just trying to go after the practice to harm the practice regardless of the outcome. So they are just going after, so they assume that practice is already guilty, even if it's not in their responsibilities, even if they are not accountable. So here's what happens. So they send a request for the records that needs to be audited. Fine. So then where do they send it? they send it to the generic email that practice has. Let's say if it's United Medical, so they send it to support@umusa.net. So this is an official legal document. Now, why this is important? Because they take an action on this request if the practice doesn't see this email for whatever reason, if they are not coming back to the insurance company in a timely manner because it went to the spam or the other places, or the person who was in charge of checking that email account is no longer with the practice, and the practices are mid to mid-size practices. So then what happens? What happens is, oh, you didn't send the records? Well, we are going to actually expand the audit to a prepayment audit, which means you won't get paid until after you send us the records of the patient, and then we are going to take our time and have some coders who work from home in their pajamas and criticizing or measuring the medical necessity of the service that's provided by the healthcare providers. Now, when I say some coders working from home in their PJs, I have coders who work for us, but they don't make the decision to take someone's money back, or they don't disqualify for someone's work. They try to code what's given to them. These coders, they do the opposite. They are saying that, hey, so you didn't put XYZ on here, but it's on the chart. Well, it doesn't matter, so we'll still ding you for this. Now, just for people to understand why I'm talking about this, and this is an outreach for other medical practices who may have same issues. We started having official meetings. We may actually even take this to a legal level. It may become a legal case. So we are gonna challenge this. So I have practices right now. I'm gonna give you an example from two practices without mentioning their names. They are small practices, and one of them asked for almost 2,000 records from one of the big insurance companies in Delaware. 2,000 records. Imagine this practice, they see probably 30 patients a day. Asking 2,000 records from that practice is inhumane and impossible. So, but yet, because if you don't send them in a timely manner, now what happens is you don't get paid. So another practice, they ask 800 records. So this is a very busy specialty in the office, dealing with so many patients. Now, when you ask 800 records, and then telling them that, hey, you send these already, we send this to your generic email, you should have that. If you have sent it in a timely manner, we wouldn't have audit at this level. That's a total bullshit. They are trying to push the private practices out of business. That's my personal and professional take on this. I believe okay, when you're listening to this, you may not really relate to it, but I want you to try. Because in this case, it may be even the insurance company is being motivated by the hospitals to do that for our practices. This happened before, like 3-4 years ago. One of the insurance companies were asked by one of the hospitals not to do a value-based agreement with United Medical ACO. So that came about a couple of years later, and this happened. Is it illegal? Yes. Can we actually go after this and spend thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars? We don't have time and resources to do that, but it is happening. So I want people to hear what I'm saying, because now what's going to happen is we are going to now send letters to our patients, letting them know that they may be responsible for these bills that's not paid by the insurance. Not only paid, but they didn't even process the records in a timely manner. So the idea is put the practice in a financial difficulty and then force them to join hospitals. Is that what it is? So if it is, then we'll challenge that. So, and that's me taking this to public with today's show and what I did on the social media post is not bluffing in any way. I'm going to go after this. Not only the companies itself, but those individuals who made these decisions, they also are personally responsible for these damages. Now, I have clients who are affected by this, and the problem is I can't even answer their calls because I don't have a good update to give them because the process is so slow. So guess what's going to happen? So they're going to pay for this. So that's that simple. And I want them to hear there's not that many of them in Delaware. The other thing is, I want people to also kind of know this. When the insurance company becomes a subcontractor for Medicare or Medicaid, they force us almost in a way to bill for diagnoses that we don't necessarily treat. It's called suspected diagnosis, which means patient had at some point in somewhere this was billed billed by one of the hospitals or somewhere, and they want us to confirm these, meaning that by increasing the risk scores of these patients when they are the subcontractor for Medicare or Medicaid, they want us to be as aggressive as possible. But when it comes to them to pay the services that's rendered, they are putting a prepayment penalty, meaning that they are not paying for the service even after the service is provided, after they find some records, and then they are inaccurately reviewing those records. So, interesting enough, they are only auditing the highest codes, while CMS and OIG says you need to look for accurate coding, not for the highest coding compliance. So if someone is billing 99213 instead of 99214, that 99213 also should be reviewed. But the insurance companies now in Delaware and nationwide, they are not even looking at those lower codes because the goal is to delay the money that they are paying or not pay at all. So this has to stop, and it will stop. Now, the issue is we have value-based agreements with these insurance companies, meaning that we have a partnership on one hand, and on the other side, some of their it's like the deep state of the insurance companies. So some department in the insurance company is trying to jeopardize the relationship that we built for those years, or for several years we tried so hard to build. And they are not talking to each other. That's just the pure bullshit. And it will stop. And I want to make sure that they can get a copy of this episode and they hear it directly, because sometimes the emails don't say what it needs to say the way it is, but I will go after them one by one, not at the person, not at the company level, but at the personal level as well. Because the person who is doing the task on behalf of their company, if their intention is motivated with ill feelings, then they are personally responsible for those. Those coders, those directors of those coders are going to be all sued in this legal battle. So I just want this to be clear, and people can understand why we are doing certain things. So for those two clients that I wasn't able to return the calls, hopefully they are listening and understanding my frustration level, and but what I want them to know is that we are going to be fighting for them. So this is one of our topics today. So I know it's a little bit heated, but it is what it is. So then our goal actually is to utilize our communication channels to address our issues. So and that's not gonna change. Now, Ethan, are we ready for our next?
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite governor, not Matt Meyer, is going through a lot of trouble these days, and I want this issue to be kind of handled in from two different angles. One is There is a healthcare expenditure board in the state of Delaware that was actually pushed through by Valerie Longhurst, and it cost her seat because hospitals lobbied so heavily, and I think, again, allegedly, in my opinion, they interfered with voters to outvote her because she was the favorite in her district, and she lost the election. She was the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, I'm sorry. So that's what's sad. But what's sadder is now Christiana Hospital decided to sue the state of Delaware for this new law was in place for the expenditure board. The goal of this board is to control the healthcare expenditure in the state of Delaware, to help the taxpayers, to help the employers, help everyone in the state of Delaware to pay less on healthcare expenses. Well, Christiana Hospital decided to sue the state of Delaware. Now, this is a nonprofit organization, benefits from being a nonprofit in the state of Delaware and suing the state of Delaware. So, fine. Everything up to this point is okay. So what happens is, well, the governor's wife, the first lady, is now the head of the ER department at Christiana Hospital. So, before I bring these issues up, I always kind of weigh the issue and then ask some people, and sometimes, I may be overreacting, maybe just for the personal history with some of these people. But then everyone, the reaction was, is that even legal for this to happen? Well, the sad reality is it's legal. It's not illegal, but is it ethical is the main problem. So, and it's not ethical. So when you are the first lady of Delaware, and when your husband's state is being sued by the hospital that you work for, and you are promoted all of a sudden, please tell me this is just a coincidence, or is it just like a really good positioning by Christiana Hospital to have a really good influence over the Governor Meyer? So I'm going to leave that to the people who are actually watching this. So my opinion is already. Now, other things are happening in Delaware. So let's actually look at those. Now, there's a huge battle between the legislatives and the governor. This is it's no secret anymore. So it is happening since he took the office, because there are issues with his approach, and then this is not just something that I say, but everyone else who's working with the state, with the Senate and the House, they all talk about the same thing. So now let's look at this from different points that we have. So one of the criticism that he gets is his approach on the issues and how he actually undermine the legislation and legislators in a way. So then he actually have this top-down approach, and pretty much he just doesn't give a shit. So now what he's forgetting probably is these people who are there today are actually also the elected officials. So, and the state has a system in place so that we have to make sure that everyone is following. So now when you are actually going out of your way to create this, well, my way or highway, well, you call Trump the dictator, but Meyer becomes a little mini Trump dictator and I don't think Trump is a dictator, by the way, but Matt Meyer is trying to be a dictator in the state of Delaware. So if you are undermining your own Senate and the House in the state of Delaware, tell me what that tells you about your approach. So this is definitely a huge problem. Now, many people talk about these things, but because because Matt is the governor, they are worried about speaking these issues in public. And perhaps today our the Speaker of the House, that's why maybe she rescheduled the episode, because some of my questions were going to be about these conflicts. So maybe he is bullying people. But we are a private practice, so we are not expecting anything from the state government. We are not expecting any favor from the state of government. So we will freely criticize everything that's not happening in a good way, just like we do it in the national level. So regardless of where we are, we have to be able to support the truth. So what's right for the country, what's right for the state. So Matt is doing a lot of damage to the state of Delaware, and I want this to be communicated with the people, and we are not going to be shying away from talking about these issues. Like one of the issues, like he has, like his hijacking zoning authority and trampling local governance under the affordable housing reform. It's a huge, it created a huge problem. So even from the really strong Democrats, he's getting a lot of pushback and being accused of not respecting the democratic process. So that's gonna, bite him back. Remember, these positions are first limited by 8 years to 2 terms, and then if you really do a bad job, you are going to be out after the first term. Now, the way that he handled the corporate law reform, it's already financially hurting the state of Delaware. So this is 1/6 of the budget of the Delaware that's coming from corporate, being the corporate capital, and he is actually pushing a lot of people, a lot of businesses out. Elon Musk and Tesla was one of the examples of that, and there are more actually following this. And then I think this is, again, it's a huge problem for the state of Delaware. Now, we are known as the business-oriented state, and I think some of the actions that we see from Matt Meyer is going to harm that. Now, the other issue is the priorities on the budget, and how certain things are changing in a way that critical infrastructure and cultural investments, they are not being followed with the fiscal discipline, and some of these changes are happening with the historic preservation, community libraries, and education-related facilities are being sacrificed from this. And again, this is happening under Matt Meyer's leadership. Now, we asked him to join us several times after he was elected, regardless of we supported him or not. So, because this show was the voice of so many, even if they are not on the same, if they're not on the same page, but his team still did not respond to any of our requests. So, and another issue on the conflict of interest is from the ethical standards and the conflict of interest issue with the way that he's actually appointing people who's already appointed for some positions, and how he actually is reversing some of these things. This is a retroactive way of dealing with the issues. It's creating way too many issues. Now, one other thing is we have the state government on one hand, but then we have the federal government on the other hand, and the federal government is over state government. This is the structure in the United States. So what people maybe sometimes forgetting is like the governor is, yes, he's in charge or she's in charge of the state, but the president is in charge of the country. The state is part of the country, therefore the president is in charge of the state. So now when you have a conflict of, when you have a disagreement with the federal government, to a point, if it's an internal issues, domestic issues, fine. We can understand from this coming from different party alignments. So if you're a Democrat, maybe you're not going to like the Republican president as much, and it's vice versa from the Republican side to the Democrat. But for the national, international issues, when we are actually dealing with the trade deficit issues and addressing the trade policies, and not staying on the side of the federal government is a huge mistake, because everything and anything that's happening at the state, the federal level, is important for the state. And when those things are executed and done in a way that it's going to favor the United States, states are going to benefit from this. When you are going against this, I actually I would probably question the motivation of that. Why would you go against your own country? So this may have something to do with other relationships that they may have with different countries, who knows. Now, right now, more than 50% of the state, Delaware residents, they believe that state is in the wrong direction. So remember, we are not a 50-50 state, so we are more on the Democratic side. So 50% is a high number for people not supporting and saying that we are not in the right direction. And this is so far what we have seen from the Meyer team, and I don't think I don't see a really good future there, because I see some of the TV shows that he was participating, and the way that he's handling himself, it's just, there's something wrong there. So if you watch him and if you analyze the way that he talks, the way that he attacks certain people, the way that he mentions some names, well, you are the governor of the second smallest state, and Elon Musk is not going to take you seriously. So he left. Who lost is Delaware. So because of your actions. So this is that simple. So now 3 more years. So we will go back to this video in 2028, and then I will explain why he lost. Because unless this changes, it's not gonna get any better. So one of the issues on the Delaware side is with the healthcare expenditure issues, and the first lady being the employee of Christiana Hospital as an executive. Like if she was a physician at Christiana Hospital, this would not be a problem, by the way. So, but if she's taking a role in the executive team, and it's a kind of a big deal being in charge of the ED at Christiana. It's one of the busiest ED in the United States. And when the governor appoints the board members for your hospital, and your hospital is suing the state, your wife is in the executive team, what the hell is wrong with you? And I want people to pay attention to this. So that I'm going to leave it there. So because we have bigger issues, and we'll go to our next topic for today. So time-wise, I always miscalculate how we are going to do. So I thought we had more time, but we don't. So unfortunately, we are probably going into another global conflict. Well, we are already in another global conflict, and when we saw this was coming, right? So this is again in the same region in Middle East, and the issue is the relationships between different countries with themselves, and then how the United States is actually engaged with these countries, and who's right, who's wrong. And if you watch one media source, you are gonna let's say I'm just gonna, I don't need to be diplomatic. If you are a Republican and watching only Fox News, you are gonna have one opinion on this issue. If you are a Democrat watching CNN or MSNBC, you are gonna have one issue, one opinion, and it's gonna be an opposite opinion of what the other side is thinking. So now I always describe myself as or identify as an independent, and many of you heard when I actually agree with President Trump's different approaches that he had in the last 6 months, and also criticize him, but work with our state Democratic team here, and because I think from my intellectual level, I can separate what's good from what's bad by using my common sense, my intelligent level, and my knowledge, and my like dignity and ethics, everything that you can think of to separate these issues. We should be able to at certain levels. So this is one of those issues. Now, what we see is the this again, same big hypocrisy. How we have the same issue with the hospital relationship with the state, and how they actually do certain things in a way that if it's right for them, it doesn't matter what needs to happen and how it needs to happen, as long as it's right for them. It doesn't have to be ethical. It doesn't have to be, I'm not saying it's illegal, but ethic is different than illegal. So doing the just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. So I want people to kind of understand and process these things. So there is this nuclear weapon issue with the global hypocrisy, and what's happening in the Middle East, in Gaza, and in some ways I understand the position that we are in from the United States. In many ways, I don't know when I'm home processing these things on my own. I have difficulties to justify certain things that we are being part of, and clearly. Picture a little bit. So this is a really good summary of side by side, country by country comparison. U.S. Nuclear policy on these, I think, 4 different countries that I have there. So if you look at Iran and Israel right now, Iran is part of the NPT, and Israel is not. So from the capability standpoint, Iran has no confirmed weapons or advanced enrichment capacity. We already know that there is a nuclear ambiguity believed to have 8 to 100 warheads. Actually, right now, what I was watching last night, it was 400 warheads. Is it coming from me or you?
I think it's my computer, sorry.
Okay. So, sorry, so it was just alerting, so I took this time. So, there's almost 400 warheads in Israel right now. So, from the U.S. approach, this is, I believe, where the hypocrisy is in place, is there's a maximum pressure with Iran versus there's a silent approval to Israel. So, justification by U.S. for Iran and its position is prevent regional destabilization and uphold the NPT forms. and we all know that what happens with Israel, with the accountability and what they are able to do, and what damage actually can be done. So when Trump actually was running his election, and I probably said this so many times, he ran his campaign based on America first and no war, actually, right? So this was his main approach from the first term, and then that's what he promised on the second term. But I think he's getting a lot of pressure from the Jewish lobby, and as we all know, that this is one of the strongest lobby in the United States with the most amount of money, and I think they're putting a lot of pressure on Trump in this issue. Now the thing is, when you look at the justification of these issues, so when you are saying that regional security, well, Iran could be a threat, but then Israel is not, that's not true. Because Israel is already saying that it's going to go after other countries anyway. The Promised Land is one of the dumbest thing ever. And they're actually publicly saying this, and people follow this. What Promised Land are we talking about? So God is a real estate dealer, and he's just giving you promises. Hey, if you get this, I'm going to take less commissions. What the hell is wrong with you people? So there is no Promised Land. So if that's the only excuse, that's a huge problem. But they also already demonstrate this, meaning that more aggressive, acting on their aggression, and taking over different countries. This already happened. So when we are trying to keep people alive in our field here in the healthcare, when we see people are just dying just because of the bad policies, and I have the same feeling that we had like in 2020, 2021 with the Tigray and Ethiopia conflict, and how no one actually cared about it. 5 million people were affected at one time, and no one talked about it other than myself and Dr. Ergal. And yet now, all of a sudden, Israel goes out of its way and attacking Iran. And then now when Iran is responding to that, Iran is dangerous. So, I mean, if you want me to act stupid and like a 3-year-old, then I can say, okay, so I see what you are saying, but we are all adults and we have a good intellectual level to process these things, and we're not dumb. So we can see what's right, what's wrong. So if US has a really huge benefit by siding with Israel, and if we don't know that, that means Trump administration is not doing a good job explaining this. So far what we see is kids are dying, little kids are dying, men, women are being killed. So we have been witnessing to this for the last 3 years, and now when another country is saying that, hey, you cannot invade me and protect themselves, we say that, oh, they're barbarians. Why? Because they're Muslims. That's just a pure bullshit. So this is a little bit longer topic that we are going to probably get in and out of this in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to bring this up so that at least I don't feel like when I have a voice through this channel, and if I don't do anything about it, I feel guilty. And trust me, I mean, I get some criticism from my family members. My dad doesn't want me to talk publicly about these things, but we have to be responsible, and we have to voice out what's unfair when these things are happening, because we don't also want anyone who are innocent from this country to die either. So Middle East and other countries can become really dangerous traps for us and for them. So we have seen what happened in Iraq, we have seen what happened in Libya, and some of the other places, and that's the last thing that United States needs. So if Trump does what he promised and put America first, then I would see that U.S. being just focusing on the U.S. business. Now, just so it's kind of interesting, maybe enough at least for me. So I supported the Greenland approach of Trump because it has something to do with the United States security and its borders. I supported his approach on Panama Canal because that canal is one of the most important things for the U.S. trade, and we paid for it. And now it's being controlled by Chinese, and that's not going to happen. So when, again, we should be able to make these decisions with the best of our common sense and process them in the right way so that we can actually criticize on some issues and we can support them on the other issues. But this doesn't mean that either all or you're all in or you're all out. I don't believe in that. So hopefully Trump administration will keep United States out of this conflict and not to encourage any more damage in the Middle East. And this is also very close to where my family lives. So if something happens in Iran and if Israel uses one of its nuclear weapons, it's going to impact people in Turkey. So, well, for what? We just need to support because there's enough money here to keep them going with their lobby effort. That's not. That should not be. That should not be the case. So that is what we have for today. I know they're not the most excited things, so I wish that we were just crashing like egg on my head, and then we would just get millions of views. So then Ethan would throw something from there, but that's not what we do. So we are in a serious business. We are in the business of making people live longer and then make them live regardless. So that puts a lot of responsibility on our side, and we take that very seriously. Well, we'll be back with the Bariatric Friday today, and then next week we'll have another guest coming with us. So until then, please stay united. Bye-bye. There, so you can let me know when it's time.